Well. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been sacked from Manchester United after 3 years in charge of the club. A lot of people were thinking after some really bad results in the start of the season, including the 4-2 defeat with Leicester, the 5-0 thrashing with Liverpool at Old Trafford, the results against Manchester City just before the international break, and of course now the 4-1 defeat to Watford at Vicarage Road. And I know there are a lot of people, including Manchester United fans and everyone in the football world, have been saying, you know, that Solskjaer needs to go, and after some very, very disappointing results this season, that his time is up. And unfortunately, I think it really was. But I'm going to start off by giving Solskjaer a lot of credit for the job he has done at Manchester United throughout his time. Of course, he had a fantastic career as a player at the club. Of course, being that player who scored in the last minute against Bayern Munich in 1999, in which Manchester United clinched their second Champions League title. And when he came back to Manchester United, he was the caretaker manager after Jose Mourinho's departure, and after a successful end to the season, he became a permanent manager. And I will say at the very start of his tenure at Manchester United that he was starting to pick up the pieces after Jose Mourinho left, and he was rebuilding the team all over again. And I think he kind of built something that was, you know, thriving towards a vision and, in a way, getting back to winning trophies again. And it was just a lack of getting over that final line where we kind of thought maybe this guy isn't quite there. I know obviously players have got to take responsibility, which I'll talk about a bit later on. And I think the beginning of the end for him in many ways was the Europa League final, in which Manchester United lost to Villarreal at the end of last season. The decision making in that game was very poor, and I think it was something that he probably just lacked any kind of tactical idea or inhibition to be able to get the best out of those players to just go and win a trophy. And I think what I find frustrating in many respects with Solskjaer's tenure as Manchester United manager is he spent more money than Pep Guardiola has in his entire time at Manchester City. He spent about £387 million on players, and yet they've still not got a trophy. It's just mental that he spent that much money and still can't get over that line. And yes, you could argue that the players weren't at the top of their game and that they could do so much better. But I think towards the end of Solskjaer's reign as Manchester United manager, you could just feel that it was the beginning of the end for him, and you could just feel the tension and the friction in the dressing room from a fan's perspective when you're in the stadium, when you're at home watching the game or whatever. You know, you could just feel that friction, and not just Manchester United fans, but everybody else. It was crystal clear, and that was the problem. I think the real crucial turning point was the 5-0 defeat to Liverpool at Old Trafford. The fact that the fans left 60 minutes into the game, and this is probably the most prolific and exciting fixture in the Premier League with Manchester United against Liverpool, and it was just a shock to see that the fans were leaving. Not that I actually blame them, to be honest, because it was an awful performance from the team, and the players do need to take responsibility for games like that. There was just no real passion, no real determination to win the ball, to get the ball forward. Although I think a lot of people blame Cristiano Ronaldo's involvement for this whole fiasco, but the fact is, he's the one who's been keeping them going. He's the one who's been extending Solskjaer's reign as manager. He's the one who's been scoring goals in the last minute in Champions League games in the Premier League this season, and he's the one who's been showing passion, and he's the oldest player in the team. He's more of a leader than Harry Maguire is at Manchester United, and this is what I find frustrating, because it's a tough one when you've got a player like Cristiano Ronaldo in the team who is a natural born winner. You know, the man's a 5-time Ballon d'Or winner. He's won the Champions League 4 times. He's won the Premier League, he's won La Liga, and all of those things. You know, he's a natural born winner. But the players had to take a bit on the chin and go, look, we've got Ronaldo, we can get the best out of ourselves with this guy in the team. And they just didn't, and it's just disappointing. And again, you could say that it is because of the manager, because he couldn't tactically get it right. They couldn't bend around Ronaldo, but equally, they couldn't bend Ronaldo around the team that he was trying to rebuild. I think, looking back now, I was excited about Ronaldo coming to the team, and I'm still glad he is back in the team. But I think from the manager's perspective, he had no real kind of idea, and he probably still didn't even after yesterday's game with Watford. And this ultimately was the time for him to go. If he stayed after this game yesterday, I don't know what the Glazers will be thinking, to be honest with you. And the fact they called an emergency board meeting last night, and it ran for probably about 4 to 5 hours from reports that I've read, you know, it told a massive story that it was going to be a difficult decision that they were going to have to think tactically and strategically as to who they were going to bring in. I mean, the fact that they didn't capitalise on Antonio Conte after the Liverpool game. Everyone was saying Solskjaer needs to go, Conte needs another job. The fact that Spurs got him, a team that are, to be perfectly honest, a lot more woeful than Manchester United are at the moment, and he's got an even bigger job on his hands than he probably would have had if he took charge of Manchester United. So I just think it was a missed opportunity with Antonio Conte, but I'm not sure who will come in now, whether it's Pochettino if he leaves PSG, if Zidane comes into the role, or even Brendan Rodgers. I think all three would be good appointments for it, but I said about Pochettino at the beginning of the time when he was sacked from Tottenham that he could potentially be the Manchester United manager, and I think his kind of style of management would work, because I think he's good at man management, especially when he was at Tottenham, but maybe not so much now at PSG, because he's got so many big characters to manage in the team. I think he's a good manager, and I would like to see him at United one day. I mean, a lot of people have said Zidane because he's won the Champions League like 3 times in a row, and, you know, he's a football legend, and, you know, and he's done really well at Real Madrid, but obviously it's going to be a task for him to even speak English. You know, he's got to speak English, and then he's got to manage the team, so that'll be a really interesting turn of events to see how he'll do there. And of course, Brendan Rodgers. I think he's the most underrated manager in the Premier League, to be honest, because he was so close with Liverpool to winning the Premier League, and of course with Leicester winning the FA Cup. He's been like Claudio Ranieri Part 2 at Leicester, and I think he's a fantastic manager, and I really respect Rodgers. I know he's not got off to a great start this season. I think sometimes you have a prime at a club and then you dip slightly, but it just depends how long that prime lasts for. But you never know, they might come back even stronger next season and he might stay there even longer, and then United will be screwed even more as to who they're going to appoint as their new manager. But like I say about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he deserves a lot of credit for taking on the role after the picking up the pieces from Jose Mourinho, and I know he's had a lot of backing from the board and all the players as well. Not just the fact that he's a former United player, but because of the kind of person that he is. And you know, it was just a shame that his vision for the club was just short. It just lacked something to get over that final line. And to be fair to him, he's brought in some good players, but they just haven't met the potential of what they could have done. And maybe that's due to lack of game time. Donny van de Beek being a crucial example. And the irony that he scored yesterday in what was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's final game. You know, it's just almost poetic justice, really. I'm just tired now, from a Manchester United perspective, of all the social media apologies, and that's where I will applaud David De Gea yesterday in his post-match interview. The fans want honesty and truth and reality of a situation, especially when it's as crystal clear as it is at Manchester United right now. We don't want people like Harry Maguire saying, we know we can do better, poor performance, unacceptable. We have that week in and week out. It's the same old story. We need to see an actual response, and we need to see better from these players, but we're just not getting that at the moment. And it said a lot about Harry Maguire in the England game when he scored against Albania with the hand gesture in which he was silencing his critics, so to speak. But the fact is, one goal doesn't automatically silence them. You've got to perform better consistently, especially when you are worth £80 million and you are the captain of this team. Some captain who gets himself sent off after yesterday, and then it was obviously his manager's final game in charge. You know, it's just mental. I think United just need that drive and that determination to get that spirit back and to get the results and that passion to make them fearsome again. Because a lot of teams now watching that yesterday will be like, playing against Manchester United, you know, the team that won the treble, the team that, you know, dominated the Premier League for 20 years, the team that have got among the best and most expensive players in the world. And this is how they're playing. Something needed to change in the club, and it needed to change now. And of course, that is the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been dismissed from Manchester United. And in many ways, I feel sorry for him because, you know, I did like him as a player and I like him as a character, but the fact is, his time was up and he has taken the club as far as he possibly can. But I think where Solskjaer will go next is at a club where the standards aren't quite so high, and I think it will be something that will be an opportunity for him to dust himself down and go again. Because of course, taking the job at Manchester United, which is absolutely huge, and you know, I think you'd be very brave to take a job like Manchester United, given the expectation and the legacy to continue and rebuild the team and get trophies and whatnot. I think he'll go into international management, and I would actually like to see him manage the Norwegian national football team, because of course there is a difference between international management and club management, and I think it'll be a test for him as to, you know, what standards he can achieve at that level again. Despite the negative end to his management role, I won't always remember him for this. I won't really. I'll always remember him for, of course, the Champions League final, and you know, some of the great goals that he scored as a player at Manchester United. And he has brought some good memories as a manager of Manchester United, but like I say, his time was just up. And you know, I think it's just something that it just happens in life. You know, it just happens when, you know, if you fall short in your job, or you fall short in, you know, what you're capable of, then sometimes it is the right thing to do, and sometimes it's just how life works, unfortunately. And of course, Solskjaer's not the only manager who's been dismissed from their role this season, because prior to his sacking, we've had 5 different managers at different clubs. Of course, the first one being Munoz when he left and Claudio Ranieri took charge of Watford. Steve Bruce, of course, with Newcastle after the takeover and Eddie Howe taking the job. Dean Smith left Villa and Steven Gerrard took the role. Daniel Farke from Norwich and Dean Smith took over at Norwich, and Antonio Conte took the role at Tottenham after Nuno Espirito Santo. So it's just been a crazy season already with so many different managers, and you know, at this rate we could potentially be seeing 1 or 2 managers left in the Premier League who haven't lost their job, which could potentially fall down to Klopp, Guardiola and Tuchel. For all we know, every other manager could go by the end of this season, so it's just mental. But that just shows how crazy the Premier League can get sometimes. I feel, back to Solskjaer, that, you know, it was time for him to go, and I do still respect him as a person, as a manager, and also as a player. So what do you think of Solskjaer sacking at Manchester United? Who do you think should take over? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you did want to enjoy this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more, and have a notification bell tick so you're notified when I upload a new video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.